My name is Arvind Varsani. I'm a molecular virologist and a professor in the School of Life Sciences at Arizona State University. My dissertation thesis almost 20 years ago was associated with designing vaccines for human papillomavirus, but now I pretty much work on evolution of viruses across ecosystems. Accomplishments to be proud of kind of depend on where you are within a global setting. And in my case, pretty much is being recognized internationally within the scientific community. Growing up in the global south and being educated in the global south, there are many challenges of being accepted into a scientific community outside where you are working. And certainly there is this notion that first world science is far superior to science that is carried out in developing countries or the global south. And so certainly breaking through these barriers has been a major, major challenge for me. And I think I have been pretty persistent and managed to work through this to a level that I am now ultimately recognized at an international level on par with my colleagues in first world nations. So my challenge in grad school is relatively different to what some other students might face. My challenges were to do with experimentation that actually were going on, or actually were long experimentations that were about 24 hours, 36-hour experiments, where the main challenge was kind of keeping up with the experiment without much sleep, because there were time points every 1 to 2 hours that you had to collect samples at. And so with that, you had to have some level of being awake, cognizant, but at the same time dealing with lack of sleep and being tired at the same time. And so from this kind of an environment, one of the important things to think about is, what did I learn out of this? And why was this challenging for me? And the challenge was certainly the time frame. But what I learned out of it was, can one become resilient to these kind of challenges one faces in other parts of their lives? And in my case, certainly I was very fortunate, primarily because I could flip this around into a different thing and turn it into a learning experience, into an experience such that if I was faced with such challenges in the rest of my life, how would I be able to deal with it? And for example, I used to run ultra marathons at times, and those were 160-kilometer events, 24 hours of running, and certainly you're fatigued, you're going through the same thing. So what I did was flip this into an experience and then use that in my other life, in terms of outside my academic life, for things that I actually carry out. For me, the helpful coping strategies was to flip the narrative, to turn this challenge into an experience, to learn from it, and to be a better person and resilient. So in any challenges that we do face in our lives, be it failures or just general challenges, I think it's really important for us to flip them around and say, what can we learn from them and move forward? And certainly we might have a vision that we want something to go certain ways and it does not happen the way we want it. That shouldn't stop us from moving forward. We can certainly reflect on it. It takes some time not to have a knee-jerk reaction and respond in a negative way, but to actually reflect on it and say, all right, this is what's happened. How can I actually learn from it so that I never make that mistake again? Or how do I revisit the same situation with a different mindset such that that failure will actually be a success? So for me, the biggest experience from this was becoming resilient within my own space. It enabled me to reflect on what I had in terms of abilities, what I could deal with, and how I could actually bypass these challenges. So certainly some of the bigger things that I've always had is whenever we have failures or any kind of stressful events, at times we go into a depression, and how do we deal with it? So for me, dealing with it was a different thing. And number one was flipping the narrative. Number two was reflecting on it and then working from there rather than having knee-jerk reactions. So my advice to graduate students who are facing challenges either similar to mine or any other different ones is certainly, number one, communicate. Number two, reflect on the challenge. And number three, take some time to think through how you can work through that challenge with your communication skills. So either seeking advice, support, or finding other members of the community who are in a similar environment that you can create a support structure and work through it as a collective rather than an individual. And there are chances that your mentor might recognize this challenge and will be willing to work with you through this challenge. So certainly use all the resources that are available for you in this context. I encourage students not to have knee-jerk reactions, reflect. And at times that reflection gives us a lot more depth into the situation, gives us some perspective. And also reflect to see if you were faced with that situation in a different context, not necessarily a grad school, but in a different environment, how would you deal with it? And can you bring that back into your grad school to help you navigate that? Because ultimately, we learn from our mistakes and we grow. And certain times we have lived experiences in a different setting that might be translatable to that current setting we're in. Thanks for watching Failsafe Science. I'm Arvind Varsani, and I hope my story helps you navigate through your graduate school, make you more resilient and reflective of your challenges, your failures, and your successes.